Okay, so today I'm joined by Alex Baune, who is actually one of our brokerage's top real estate agents. And Alexander has been with our firm for almost 9 years now and has progressed his career into being one of our sales managers as well as one of our company's top producers. And Alex, on average right now, you're selling what, about anywhere from 2 to 4 million a month. Call it an average of about $3 million a month. Absolutely incredible. And that's not like you're doing that up and down production. I mean, that's a pretty consistent $3 million a month every month.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So, Alex, a lot of people get into the business and they're able to, get in, have a couple good months, and then they start riding the roller coaster of real estate, right? Maybe you could talk just a little bit about how you've been able to keep your, production consistent and kind of keep yourself highly producing month after month.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing to do at times, but the big thing that you kind of instilled in me early on, that every month you start back at zero. Every January 1st, you start back at zero. So what I did last month isn't gonna, transition into next month. I've got to do the same thing. So it's
Right.
always keeping that mindset that you start back at zero every month. And it's how do we get back up there? Finding a solution, finding a path, how to get there again.
Right. A lot of people want to celebrate last month's win 2 weeks into the next month, right? And before they know it, half their month is gone and they can't recover from it. So that's great advice. I mean, being somebody who knows to start that month over every single month, because you got to get your numbers, right? You got to treat it like a business and understand that if you don't sell this month, you don't eat. So, being able to be consistent is key. But, Alex, before we get, going too far, why don't we back up for a minute and tell everybody a little bit about your background prior to getting into real estate?
Yeah, so I did nothing with sales. I
Right.
bartended. I worked at restaurants. Pretty much every position in a restaurant I've held. I drove truck for a little bit for a company out in outside of Salem. What else? I got my degree in criminal justice. I was working juvenile corrections for a bit. That was what I was doing right before I came here, actually.
Right. And Alex, for everybody out there listening, Alex is from P-Town, from Portland, and born and raised out there in the valley, right?
Not even close.
No, not in the valley.
Crow. No, Crow. Little.
Crow, down by Eugene, Oregon, home of the great Oregon Ducks. So, no, that's, it's incredible that you got into real estate without a sales background and were able to have tremendous success. I mean, I think that if I recall, and keep in mind, this is almost a decade ago, right?
Right.
When I think about it, that first month was a little bit of a struggle, kind of getting you up to speed.
It's the first few months.
First few months were a little bit of a struggle, but then once it clicked in your mind, you took off like a rocket ship and there was no looking back. So let's talk about that, because you did struggle for, I remember it being a lot shorter than a few months. I remember it being a month, maybe 2 months, where you were just kind of getting acclimated. But what was it that caused everything to kind of come together and click for you, and then go from struggling to being, really successful really fast?
Right. I mean, there was a mentality, and I remember having it back then and thinking about it, just the too stupid to fail mentality, right? Like there was, I sold a bunch of my stuff to make sure I was able to afford, all my bills, get this going. There was no turning back. So I had two options. I either crash and burn or I figure something out. And so, before it got to the point where I was, completely broke and had nowhere to go really,
Right.
was what do I need to do to make this work? So I asked you, I asked Dustin, I asked, other people that have been doing this longer than me, and got the help. And then it was, I know how to work. I may not know how to do sales, but I know how to learn. I know how to work. I know how to grind stuff out. So that was the whole mindset that I had to get in.
Right. Well, it worked out really, really well for you. So, the hard work, the dedication, and the determination, is that's what it sounds like it took you to kind of get over that hump.
Yeah.
Alex, let me ask you this. In our brokerage, we have a lot, we have new agents. A lot of the people who watch our YouTube channel are new agents that might be looking to get into the real estate business. What advice do you have for brand new people looking to launch their real estate careers?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to just not isolate yourself and think that you're the only person that's dealing with whatever issue it is. Before, like I said, the first several, probably 3, 4, 5 months, I had no idea what I was doing. And I could have continued that trend, but I chose to ask, chose to reach out, chose to bring in other people that knew this better than me. So the biggest thing I would say is just make sure you're not isolating yourself. Ask, reach out. There's always somebody in this company that's willing to help, willing to give you advice, willing to teach you something that we've learned from somebody else, that we stole from you, from somebody else, Dustin, anybody. So yeah, always be looking to learn, basically.
That's great advice. The thing about it that I will share with everybody is, you're looking on the screen right now at a guy who sells, 10 to 12 homes a month, 40 million dollars worth of real estate a year. But consistently and persistently, he's on every single training call. Unless he's at a client appointment, he's on the training calls. Even if he has his children, and there have been plenty of calls where I've heard, his child in the background maybe making some noise, but the effort's there to continue to be learning based and continue to grow, right? And continue to be persistent and consistent and getting better. Alex, I guess probably the next question that I would have for you is, you are very, very good at obviously obtaining clients, right? Client acquisition is the name of our game, being able to convert leads and opportunities. In our brokerage, we supply all of our agents, preset listing appointments every day, right? And you've become very, very good at the conversion piece of the business. Talk to everybody about what it takes to I get people to like you and win clients, really is what it is, right? So what do you think a couple of high level tips that you have for everybody would be in regards to that?
One of the big things is just seeing the whole field, seeing the whole, the whole path that it needs to go. Obviously the end result is we want to get them to sign up. We want to get them to list. We want to get them as a client. But if you just look at just that end goal, you're never going to get it. So you have to figure out what path it needs to go. So the way my mind works is I look at it like a giant game of chess. It's a giant game, really. So I'm looking at trying to move the pieces, trying to get things where they need to go. The other thing is slow down. That's one lesson that was a hard lesson to learn. I like to move fast. I like to run with it, but to get somebody to really engage and learn to trust you, you have to slow the process down for them quite a bit. And so bringing it in at their pace is probably one of the biggest things also.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's great advice. You want to make sure that you listen, right? They say that you were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? You want to listen to what people are saying to you, and be able to respond accordingly. And, part of that is slowing down and really listening to what people are saying to you and being able to, really kind of take it all in and be able to help them understand what their challenges are, what their motivation is, and being able to empathize with them when they give you, information. Alex, you've been around the block with us. You've 9 years. You've seen us bring new agents in. Probably one of the better things that you've been exposed to is other agents at other companies out there, right? And you've seen a lot of agents at other companies fail, get out of the business, have challenges. You've been around a lot of it just in general. What do you think new agents can do to be able to not fail, not just get into the business, maybe do a transaction or no transactions, and then fail out of the business? What advice, what tips What do you have for people who are looking to be successful at your level and not just fail?
Um, uh, One of the big things that I've learned, in interviewing as a sales manager also is there's a lot of people that get into this for the wrong reasons. There's a lot of people that get into this thinking that, well, I love HGTV, so that's what it must be about, right?
Right.
In reality, it's not that at all. So getting into it for the right reasons, I think, to support your family, to work, to whatever it is, but just the love of houses, it doesn't always translate, unfortunately.
Right.
So one of the big advices is getting into it for the right reasons, and two, realizing that it is a lot of work. It's not just you go and grab a client and you make a bunch of money real quick. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not anything like that. So realizing that it does take a really good work ethic and a grind to be able to make this successful. That's about what it takes, really.
Right.
We'll have the persistence to push through it.
What are some challenges that you face, I guess, every day or weekly or monthly? What are some challenges that you face in continuing to maintain production and be able to continue operating at a high level?
Mhm. It's shutting out all the negatives, whether or not I had a client that, got a bad repair addendum, whether or not I had somebody upset about something, they didn't get the offer accepted they wanted, whatever it is. There's a lot of things that you can bring in that are all negative. And if you focus on those, dwell on those, and exist in that moment while you're in your next listing appointment, people feed on that. And so you don't then close business, obviously. So it's learning how to ride the highs, obviously, a lot more. And then when you get something bad, you get something negative, it's figuring out, how do I get out of this little funk quicker? How do I get past this? How do I just compartmentalize that to the side real quick?
Right. Great advice. If you think about it, sales, real estate, it's a game. It's a numbers game where you have to talk to 100 people to get 20 yeses. So what does that mean? When you dissect it and you look at those numbers, it means that you get told no, right? 4 times more than you get told yes. And that's if you're good, right? And you've received the right training and you know how to close and you can do all the right stuff. You're literally getting told no more than you get told yes. So it can be a negative industry, a negative sport that we play, but it's a mental game and you have to keep yourself focused and dedicated to looking at the positives and the wins that you do get, right? I think in our last sales meeting of this week, I said it was like shooting a basketball. You look at the greatest player to play the game, right? Michael Jordan. He still didn't have above a 50% shooting average, so that means that he missed more shots than he made, but he was still considered the greatest of all time because he was able to understand that he needed to take so many shots to get so many buckets and keep his scoring average where he needed to be so he could help his team win, right? And that's the same thing in our sport. It's you got to ask enough people for business. You're going to get told no. You got to be able to move past that and keep your mind right. Alex, what other tips do you have for people looking to be successful at the 30, $40 million a year level? I mean, what tips do you have for anybody looking to be the next Big Al Baune?
Um, you have a choice in every day, right? You have a choice whether or not you have a big empty block to sit on your couch or go play outside or do stuff. If you dedicate your work hours, morning to afternoon, evening, whatever time you want to stop, you dedicate that just to work, to putting yourself in front of business. That's what's going to get you producing at a high level. If you have a big empty slot in your calendar because you didn't have an appointment or you didn't have somebody to meet with, there's somebody to call. There's always a buyer you can go out and show. There's always somebody you can follow up with. There's always something that you can do to put yourself back in front of business on a slow day. And then you make yourself have busy days using that time frame.
Right. Great advice. Well, Alex, I appreciate you doing this with us today. This was great. For everybody out there listening, hopefully you guys like the content of today's video. If you have questions or comments, go ahead and make them down below. We answer all of our questions, all of our comments. If you like the content of today's video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. We appreciate all the support. And Alex, I want to thank you again for being on with us today.
You're welcome.